The Galactic Council building was the largest structure ever built by any species. It floated in the darkness of space, far from any star, a place where all the intelligent races of the galaxy could meet and talk. The Great Hall inside could hold 10,000 beings at once. Its walls were made of white stone brought from 100 different worlds. Light came from floating crystals that never went dark. For 12,000 years, this place had been the center of galactic politics. Wars had been stopped here. Trade agreements had been signed. New species had been welcomed into the community of intelligent life. The Council had seen many strange things in its long history, but it had never seen anything like what happened on that day. Ambassador Una Park stood at the human delegation's podium. She was a small woman with black hair and sharp eyes. She had served humanity in this hall for 15 years. She knew every rule, every custom, every unwritten law of galactic diplomacy. She had argued with beings 10 times her size and won. She had made friends with species that breathed poison and ate metal. Today, she was reading a report about mining rights in a distant star system. It was boring work but important. 11 other humans sat behind her: diplomats, scientists, military advisors. They were drinking coffee and checking their tablets and waiting for the session to end. Then Una's earpiece made a sound. A soft beep that meant a priority message from Earth. She touched the device and listened. Her face changed. The color left her skin. Her hand began to shake. Ambassador Park? The speaker was High Counselor Velthan of the Meridian Collective. He was an ancient being, 900 years old, with a body like a floating jellyfish. Glowing tendrils hung from his form, and they flickered with different colors to show his emotions. Right now, they were yellow with confusion. Is something wrong? Una did not answer. She turned to her delegation and spoke one word in the human language. The other humans heard it through their own earpieces. Their reactions were immediate. Coffee cups fell to the floor. Tablets were dropped. Faces went pale. What is happening? Velthan demanded. His tendrils turned orange with irritation. The Terran delegation will explain themselves. But Una was already walking toward the exit. Then she was running. All 12 humans sprinted from the chamber. They left everything behind: their documents, their bags, their half-eaten food. They ran like their lives depended on it. The Great Hall fell silent. 10,000 aliens watched the doors close behind the fleeing humans. Wow, said Ambassador Crix of the Dravakian Empire. He was a massive creature covered in thick scales, with 4 arms and a face full of sharp teeth. The Dravakians were warriors, feared throughout the galaxy. That was interesting. His aide, a smaller Dravakian, leaned close. Sir, I have studied humans for 400 years. I have seen them fight. I have seen them laugh in the face of death. I have never seen them run from anything. Crix nodded slowly. Neither have I. The whispers began immediately. Every species in the hall had questions. The Velthari, a race of traders and smugglers, immediately began betting on what had happened. The Andorians, who looked like tall insects, clicked their mandibles nervously. The Meridians glowed with various colors of worry and confusion. Perhaps they received news of an attack, suggested one ambassador. Perhaps their homeworld is under invasion, said another. Perhaps they are planning something, whispered a third, and his voice was full of suspicion. Within 1 hour, the news spread. Every human vessel in Council space had broken orbit. Ships that had been docked for repairs launched before their repairs were complete. Cargo vessels abandoned their deliveries. Military ships left their patrol routes. All of them were moving at maximum speed toward Earth. High Counselor Velthan called an emergency meeting of the senior ambassadors. 40 beings gathered in a smaller chamber, representing the most powerful species in the galaxy. We must know what is happening, Gelfin said. His tendrils were dark blue now, the color of deep concern. Humanity has been part of this council for only 200 years, but in that time, they have become important to galactic stability. Their sudden departure is troubling. Ambassador Crix crossed his forearms. Troubling? I would use a stronger word. The humans control 12% of galactic shipping. Their military, while small, is highly effective. If they are preparing for war, we should not assume the worst, said Ambassador Sylvath of the Andorian Reach. Her voice was like clicking stones. Humans are emotional creatures. Perhaps this is simply some cultural event we do not understand. All of them? Crix asked. Every human in the galaxy at the same moment? No, this is coordinated. This is planned. And they did not tell us why. The debate continued for hours. Messages were sent to the fleeing human ships, but none were answered. Probes were dispatched to follow them, but human vessels were fast, and they quickly disappeared into the darkness between stars. On the newsfeed networks that connected the galaxy, analysts offered their theories. Some said humanity was facing economic collapse. Others suggested a plague had broken out on Earth. A few darker voices whispered about weapons testing, about humanity preparing some terrible attack on the rest of the galaxy. Fear began to spread. Humans had always been a strange species. They were small and weak compared to many races, but they never seemed to notice. They fought wars they should have lost and won. They built things that should have been impossible. They smiled when they were angry and laughed when they were sad. And now, without warning, every single one of them had run home. The Velthary Syndicate, always looking for profit in chaos, intercepted a human cargo vessel near the border of their space. 3 armed ships surrounded the small human freighter and demanded answers. The captain was a woman named Sujin Cho. She had gray hair and a face lined with years of hard work. When the Velthary demanded she stop and explain herself, she simply transmitted her priority Omega code. "Shoot us or let us pass," she said. Her voice was calm and tired. "We don't have time for this." The Velthary commander looked at his crew. They had faced human ships before. They knew that humans did not bluff. "Let her go," he ordered. The small freighter jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished. Back at the council, High Councilor Velthan stood alone in the empty human section of the Great Hall. He looked at the abandoned coffee cups, the scattered papers, the tablets still displaying half-finished reports. What could possibly frighten humanity? He asked the empty room. No one answered. But across the galaxy, every intelligent species was asking the same question, and none of them could find an answer. The humans were gone, and the galaxy was afraid. Fleet Commander Taiho Kim had served in space for 23 years. He had fought pirates near the Outer Rim. He had protected colony ships traveling through dangerous territory. He had stood on the bridge of his carrier, the Indomitable, through battles that should have killed him. He had never been afraid. Today, standing in his private quarters, he read the message on his screen for the 3rd time. His hands were steady, but his heart was not. Priority Omega. All personnel return to Earth immediately. No exceptions. No delays. In his entire career, he had never seen a Priority Omega message. He had been told it existed, of course. Every officer knew about it. But it was supposed to be used only when humanity itself was in danger. Only when every single human being needed to come home. A knock came at his door. "Enter," Taiho said. First Officer Jiwan Lee stepped inside. She was young, only 32, but she was the best officer Taiho had ever worked with. Her face was pale. She had received the same message. "Sir," she said, "the crew is asking questions." They all got the alert on their personal devices. People are scared. Taiho nodded slowly. "Tell them to prepare for departure. Maximum burn. We're going home." Sir, what about the convoy? Jiwan asked. The Indomitable was currently protecting a group of civilian ships carrying supplies to a distant colony. If we leave them here, they'll be defenseless against raiders. The convoy will have to manage. Taiho's voice was heavy. This isn't a request, Lieutenant. This is everyone. Every human. Everywhere. Jiwan opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She understood. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than one convoy. It was bigger than any of them. Yes, sir, she said, and left to give the orders. Within 1 hour, the Indomitable broke orbit and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind them, the convoy floated alone in the darkness. Taiho stood on his bridge and watched the stars streak past the windows. Around him, his crew of 2,400 worked in silence. They had questions, but they kept them inside. They trusted their commander, and Taiho trusted Earth. Whatever was happening, there had to be a good reason. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated itself again and again. On a space station in the Andorian Reach, a human scientist named Boyang An was in the middle of a 10-year experiment. She was studying a rare type of crystal that could only be found in that part of space. When the Priority Omega message arrived, she looked at her work, looked at the data she had spent years collecting, and walked away. She did not even turn off the machines. Dr. An, her Andorian assistant, called after her. Your experiment. You cannot just leave. I have to go home, Boyan said simply. She did not look back. On a mining world in the Velthari Syndicate's territory, a human engineer named Junaho Choi was repairing a broken drill. The work was dangerous. The planet had no air, and a single mistake could kill him. When his communicator buzzed with the Priority Omega alert, he put down his tools and walked to his ship. His Velthari employer shouted at him through the radio. You can't leave. We have a contract. I'll have you arrested. Junho did not answer. He launched his small ship and flew away, leaving the broken drill and his unpaid wages behind, on a pleasure world where rich aliens came to relax. A human singer named Minji Seo was about to perform her most important concert. Thousands of beings had paid huge amounts of money to hear her voice. When her Priority Omega alert arrived, she walked off the stage without a word. The audience was furious. They demanded refunds. They threatened lawsuits. But Minji was already in a transport, heading for the nearest jump point. The news feeds were full of stories like these. Humans abandoning their jobs. Humans breaking contracts. Humans leaving behind friends and colleagues without explanation. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Ambassador Crix of the Dravakian Empire called an emergency meeting of his military advisors. The Dravakians were warriors, and they thought like warriors. To them, this looked like the beginning of a war. Could it be an attack on Earth? One advisor asked. Our intelligence shows no enemy fleets near human space, another replied. Then, perhaps they are planning an attack on someone else, Crick suggested. Perhaps they are gathering their forces for an invasion. Of who? They have good relations with most species. Crick shook his massive head. I do not know, but I want our fleet on alert. If humanity is preparing for war, we must be ready. The Meridian Collective took a different approach. High Councilor Velthan ordered his scientists to study all available information about human biology and psychology. There must be an explanation, Velthan said. His tendrils glowed pale green with determination. Humans are logical creatures, despite their emotions. They would not do this without reason. Perhaps they are dying, suggested one scientist. Perhaps a disease is killing them. If that were true, why would they all go to the same place? Asked another. Surely they would spread out, try to survive. Unless the cure is on Earth, the first scientist replied. Unless they need to go home to be saved. Valthan considered this. Send a message to the human government. Offer our help. Tell them we are concerned." The message was sent. Hours passed. No reply came. In the dark spaces between stars, human ships flew toward Earth. Big ships and small ships. Military carriers and tiny personal crafts. Cargo freighters and luxury yachts. All of them moved as fast as they could, their engines burning hot. On one of these ships, Sujin Cho sat in her captain's chair and watched the stars. Her freighter was old and slow, not designed for this kind of speed. The engines were screaming with the effort. Warning lights flashed on every console. "Captain," her pilot said, "if we keep this speed, the engines will fail within 2 days. Then we'll drift the rest of the way," Sujin replied. "We don't stop. We don't slow down." "But Captain, my daughter is on Earth." Sujin's voice was quiet but hard. "My grandchildren are on Earth. Whatever is happening, I need to be there. I need to help." The pilot nodded and said nothing more. Days passed. The human ships kept coming. They arrived at Earth in waves, first the military vessels, then the faster civilian ships, then the slower transports and freighters. Earth's orbital stations had never been so crowded. And still, the humans told no one what was happening. The galaxy watched and waited. Fear grew into confusion. Confusion grew into anger. Some species demanded answers. Others made threats. A few began to prepare for the worst. But on Earth, humanity had no time to explain. They had work to do. A battle was coming, not against aliens, not against enemies from outside, but against something far more dangerous, and every human needed to be home to fight it. The city of Seoul had never been so quiet. Streets that usually held millions of people were empty. Shops were closed. Schools were shut. Everyone was inside, watching the news, waiting for information. In the Global Emergency Response Center, hidden deep beneath the city, Dr. Yoonji Han stood before a wall of screens. Each screen showed data from a different part of the world. Numbers scrolled past infection rates, death counts, hospital capacity. The numbers were bad, and they were getting worse. Yoonji was 53 years old. She had spent her entire life studying diseases. She had helped stop outbreaks on 3 different planets. She had written papers that were read by scientists across the galaxy. But nothing in her experience had prepared her for this. "Report," she said to her team. Dr. Minho Beek stepped forward. He was her chief assistant, a young man with tired eyes and messy hair. He had not slept in 3 days. "We have confirmed 12,847 cases worldwide," Minho said. "The number doubles every 36 hours. Mortality rate in severe cases is between 60 and 70%. The virus spreads through the air. Symptoms begin approximately 3 weeks after exposure." "Origin?" Yoonji asked. "A cargo shipment from the Andorian Reach. Exotic minerals from deep space." The virus was dormant inside the rocks. When the shipment was opened in Singapore, the virus woke up and began spreading. Yoonji closed her eyes for a moment. Such a simple thing. A box of rocks from another world. And now humanity was dying. "Patient zero?" she asked. A dock worker named Hyunwoo Kang. He opened the first container. "He's been in isolation for 2 weeks now." Minho paused. "He's still alive, but his condition is getting worse." On one of the screens, a video showed Hyunwoo in his hospital room. He was a young man, maybe 25, with a kind face. Before this, he had been healthy and strong. Now he lay in bed, connected to machines, struggling to breathe. Doctors in protective suits moved around him, doing everything they could to keep him alive. "The virus only affects humans," Minho continued. "We tested it on samples from other species. Nothing. It's like it was designed to kill us and only us." "Was it designed?" Yoonji asked sharply. "We don't think so. It's probably just bad luck," The virus evolved somewhere in deep space, and by chance, human biology is exactly what it needs to survive. Minho shrugged helplessly. The universe is very large. These things happen. Yoonji looked at the numbers on the screens. 12,000 cases. By next week, it would be 50,000. By the week after, 200,000. The math was simple and terrible. We have maybe 4 weeks before this goes exponential, she said. After that, we won't be able to contain it. Hospitals will be overwhelmed. People will die in their homes with no one to help them. She turned to face her team. If we can't find a treatment, humanity will lose at least half its population. Maybe more. The room was silent. Everyone understood what she was saying. This was not just a medical emergency. This was the end of the world. Then Yoonji smiled. It was a small smile, tired but determined. So we have 4 weeks, she said. Let's get to work. The Global Emergency Response Center became the busiest place on Earth. Scientists arrived from every country. The best doctors, the smartest researchers, the most brilliant minds humanity had to offer. All of them came together in this underground, building to fight for their species. Outside, the world prepared for the worst. Hospitals built extra beds. Factories began making medical supplies. Governments stockpiled food and water. The planetary shield, a secret project that most humans didn't even know existed, was activated for the first time. A faint shimmer appeared in the sky, visible from every continent. In orbit, the returning human ships formed a massive ring around Earth. Military vessels patrolled the perimeter, making sure no unauthorized ships got too close. Commander Taeho Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the planet below. Sir, Jo-Won Lee said, message from the surface. They're asking for medical supplies. Send everything we have, Taeho replied, and ask the other ships to do the same. Whatever they need, they get. The supplies began flowing down to Earth. Medicine, equipment, food, water, everything the planet needed to survive the coming storm. In Singapore, the quarantine zone grew larger every day. Entire neighborhoods were sealed off. People were tested, and those who showed symptoms were taken to hospitals. Those who didn't were told to stay home and wait. Hyung Woo Kang's family lived outside the quarantine zone. His mother, father, and younger sister had not been infected, but they had not been allowed to see him either. They watched the news every day, hoping for good news, fearing the worst. He's strong, Hyun-woo's mother told his sister. He'll survive. He has to, but deep down, she wasn't sure. No one was sure of anything anymore. In the Global Emergency Response Center, Yoonji and her team worked around the clock. They studied the virus under microscopes. They tested thousands of different drugs. They ran computer simulations, trying to understand how the virus attacked human cells. The work was slow and frustrating. The virus was unlike anything they had ever seen. It changed its shape constantly, making it hard to target. It hid inside healthy cells, using them as shields. It was smart, almost like it was alive and thinking. We need more data, Yoonji said during one late-night meeting. We need to understand its structure better. We've analyzed it 100 times, Minho replied. We know everything about it. Then, we need to think differently. We need new ideas. We need help. She looked at the screens showing data from around the world. Then she looked at another screen showing messages from the Galactic Council. Dozens of species had offered assistance. The Meridians had sent their entire medical database. The Dravakians had offered hospital ships. Humanity had been alone for so long. They had joined the galactic community only 200 years ago, and in that time, they had learned to rely on themselves. They didn't ask for help. They didn't need anyone. But maybe that was wrong. Maybe it was time to accept the hands being offered to them. Contact High Counselor Velthan, Inji said. Tell him we accept the Meridian medical data. Tell him we need everything he can give us. Minho looked surprised. Are you sure? Command hasn't authorized. Command will agree, Yunji interrupted. We don't have time for pride. We need to save our people. If the aliens can help us do that, then we take their help. The message was sent. And across the galaxy, the other species finally understood what was happening. Humanity was not running away from something. They were running toward something. Toward their home. Toward their people. Toward a fight they refused to lose. The question now was simple. Could they win? High Counselor Velthan had lived for 900 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species destroy themselves with war and greed. He had learned that the universe was often cold and cruel. That help rarely came to those who needed it. When he received the message from Earth explaining what was happening, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. He felt moved. A plague, he said quietly to his advisors. They are dying, and they did not tell us because they did not want to risk spreading it to other species. That is very human, said one of his advisors. They always put others before themselves. It is foolish, said another. They should have asked for help immediately, perhaps. Velthan's tendrils glowed soft blue with thought. But there is also honor in it. They were trying to protect us, even as they faced extinction. He made his decision quickly. The Meridian Collective had the most advanced medical technology in the galaxy. They would share it all. Send everything, Velthan ordered. Our entire biomedical database. Every research paper. Every experimental treatment. Remove all restrictions and classifications. Let them see it all. High Counselor, some of that information is considered secret. Let them see it all, Velthan repeated. His tendrils turned bright white with determination. If humanity falls, we lose something precious. I will not let that happen because we were too protective of our secrets. The data transmission began. Millions of files, centuries of research, flowing across space toward Earth. The Dravakians responded next. Ambassador Crix called an emergency meeting with his military commanders. We were wrong, Crix admitted. His voice was heavy. We thought they were preparing for war. Instead, they were fighting for their lives. What do we do now? Asked one commander. Crix thought for a long moment. The Dravakians were warriors. They understood battle. They understood sacrifice. And they understood that sometimes the greatest enemy was not another army, but death itself. We have 3 hospital ships, Crix said. They are fully equipped with medical facilities. Send them to Earth orbit. They will stay outside the quarantine zone, but they will be ready to help however they can. Sir, those ships are expensive to operate. The supplies alone. Did I ask about the cost? Crix's voice became hard. 10 years ago, we nearly went to war with humanity. They fought us to a standstill with a fleet half our size. They never gave up, never surrendered, never stopped believing they could win. He paused. Now they face an enemy they cannot shoot. The least we can do is stand beside them. The hospital ships launched within hours. Even the Velthari Syndicate, known across the galaxy as criminals and smugglers, offered assistance. Their leader, a scarred old being named Reth, recorded a message and sent it to Earth. We're not good people, Reth admitted in the recording. His voice was rough like stones grinding together. We steal. We cheat. We break laws. But even we have limits. We don't kill children. We don't attack the helpless. And we don't stand by while an entire species dies. He held up a datapad showing cargo manifests. We've got medical supplies sitting in our holds. Stuff we took from various places. Normally, we'd sell it for profit. But not today. Tell us where to drop it, and it's yours. No charge. No tricks. The message spread across Earth communication networks. Many people were surprised. Others were suspicious. But when the Valkyrie cargo ships arrived at the edge of the quarantine zone and began transferring supplies, no one complained. In the Global Emergency Response Center, Yoonji and her team worked with the new data from the Meridians. It was overwhelming, more information than they could process in years. But they didn't have years. They had weeks. Here, said a young researcher named Somi Yu. She was pointing at a section of the Meridian database. This protein synthesis technique. The Meridians developed it to fight diseases in their own species. But if we modify it? Yoonji looked at the data. Her eyes widened. It could work. It's not exactly what we need, but if we combine it with what we already know. The team began working on a new approach. Human knowledge plus alien science. 200 years of galactic cooperation finally paying off. Ambassador Una Park had returned to Earth on one of the first ships. Now she stood in the emergency center, watching the scientists work. Beside her was her aide, Dongwook Shin. They're helping us, Una whispered. Her voice was thick with emotion. They're actually helping us. Dongwook nodded slowly. I think they were waiting for us to ask. We've always been so independent. We never let anyone see us when we were weak. But they see us now. Yes, and they didn't turn away. They came closer. On the screens, messages continued to arrive from across the galaxy. The Andorians were sending their best virologists. The smaller species, races that humans had barely interacted with, were offering whatever they could: food, medicine, even just messages of hope. President Jisoo Yoon addressed the planet in a live broadcast. She looked tired, but her voice was strong. Citizens of Earth, she said, I will not lie to you. We are facing the greatest challenge in human history. This virus is dangerous. It has already killed thousands of our people, and it will kill more before we defeat it. She paused, letting the words sink in. But we are not alone. Look at the ships in orbit. Look at the messages on our screens. Species we have known for only 2 centuries, species we have fought with, argued with, competed against. They are standing beside us now. They are giving us their knowledge, their resources, their support. Her eyes became bright with unshed tears. Humanity has always been proud. We have always believed we could face anything alone. Today, we learn a different lesson. We learn that accepting help is not weakness. We learn that the galaxy we joined is more than just politics and trade. It is a community. And in this community, when one species falls, others reach out to catch them. She straightened her shoulders. We will beat this virus. We will survive. And when we do, we will remember who stood with us in our darkest hour. We will remember, and we will be grateful. The broadcast ended. Across Earth, people felt something change. Fear was still there, but it was mixed now with something else. Hope, belief, the knowledge that they were not fighting alone. In his hospital room in Singapore, Hyun Woo Kang watched the president's speech on a small screen. He was weaker than before, but still alive. Still fighting. A nurse in a protective suit came to check on him. How are you feeling? She asked. Hyun Woo managed a small smile. Like the whole galaxy is watching me, he said. I guess I better not die. Don't want to disappoint them? The nurse laughed softly. You won't disappoint anyone. You're human. You never give up. Outside the window, the stars shone bright. And somewhere out there, in the darkness between worlds, help was still coming. Day 31. The whole world was watching. Hyun Woo Kang sat up in his hospital bed. He was thin now, his body worn down by weeks of fighting the virus. But his eyes were clear, and his breathing was steady. For the first time since he got sick, he felt like he might actually survive. Dr. Yoonji Han stood beside his bed, holding a small injection device. Her hands were steady, but her heart was beating fast. This was the moment. Everything they had worked for came down to this. "Are you ready?" she asked. Hyunwoo nodded. "I've been ready for 31 days, doctor. Let's finish this." Yoonji pressed the device against his arm. There was a soft hiss as the vaccine entered his body. The room was silent. Cameras broadcast the moment to every screen on Earth and across the galaxy. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Hyunwoo took a deep breath. His monitors showed his vital signs stabilizing. His temperature, which had been dangerously high for weeks, began to drop. "How do you feel?" Yoonji asked. Hyunwoo smiled. It was a weak smile, but it was real. "Like I'm going to live," he said. The room exploded with cheering. Scientists hugged each other. Doctors cried. In homes across the planet, people shouted with joy. In space, on the Dravatian hospital ships, alien medics watched their screens and made sounds of celebration in their own languages. Humanity had found a cure. The vaccine was not simple. It combined human medicine with meridian protein synthesis techniques. It used Dravakian genetic research to target the virus's weak points. It included elements from 6 different species' medical traditions, all working together. Alone, no species could have created it. Together, they had done the impossible. The production began immediately. Factories that had been making medical supplies switched to producing the vaccine. Within 1 week, 10 million doses were ready. Within 2 weeks, 100 million. The vaccination campaign spread across the globe, reaching every city, every town, every village. The death toll stopped climbing. The infection rate began to fall. Hospitals that had been overwhelmed started to empty. Final count: 12,847 humans died from the virus. Each death was a tragedy. Families mourned. Communities grieved. The names of the dead were inscribed on a memorial wall that stretched for kilometers. But it was not extinction. It was not the end. Humanity survived. 6 months later, Ambassador Yuna Park returned to the Galactic Council. The Great Hall was full. Representatives from every species had come to see the humans return. When Yuna walked through the doors, the entire assembly rose to their feet. 10,000 aliens standing in respect. Yuna walked to her podium. Behind her came a larger delegation than before, not just diplomats and scientists, but doctors, engineers, and researchers who had fought the virus. Among them was Dr. Yoonji Han, looking healthier than she had in months. There was Commander Taeho Kim in his dress uniform. There was Hyunwoo Kang, fully recovered, representing the survivors. High Counselor Velthan spoke first. His tendrils glowed soft blue with emotion. 6 months ago, humanity fled these halls. We did not understand why. We thought you were running from something. We thought you were afraid. He paused, letting the silence grow. We were wrong. You were not running away. You were running toward something. Toward your people. Toward a battle you refused to lose. You went home to fight, and you won. His tendrils shifted to bright white, the meridian color of highest respect. The Galactic Council has existed for 12,000 years. In all that time, we have never seen a species face extinction with such courage. We have never seen a people who, in their darkest hour, still thought of others before themselves. You withdrew from the galaxy, not out of fear, but to protect us from your illness. Ambassador Crick stepped forward. The massive Dravakian warrior looked almost gentle now. My people know about fighting, Crick said. We have won many battles against many enemies. But the greatest warriors are not those who defeat others. They are those who defeat the things that cannot be beaten. Death, disease, despair. He placed one of his 4 hands over his chest. Humanity, you have earned the respect of the Dravakian Empire. We are honored to stand beside you. Even Reth of the Velthary Syndicate sent a message, played on the hall screens. We're still criminals, the scarred old being said with a rough laugh. But we're criminals who like humanity. You're welcome in our ports anytime. Just don't expect us to stop stealing your cargo ships. Laughter rippled through the hall. Finally, Una stepped to the podium. She looked out at the assembled species, beings of every shape and size, from every corner of the galaxy. She thought about the past 6 months. The fear, the loss, the incredible, unexpected help that had come from everywhere. We learned something, she said. Her voice was quiet but carried through the hall. We learned that we're not alone out here. For 200 years, humanity has been part of this council. But we never really understood what that meant. We thought it was about trade routes and treaties. We thought it was about politics and power. She shook her head. It's not. It's about this. This moment. When one species faces the end and the others reach out to help. When enemies become friends. When strangers become family. Her voice grew stronger. When humanity fled these halls, we didn't have time to explain. We didn't have time to ask for help. But help came anyway. The Meridians sent their knowledge. The Dravakians sent their ships. The Velthary sent their supplies. Even species we barely knew offered whatever they could. She smiled, and there were tears in her eyes. We will not forget. Humanity will never forget who stood with us when we were dying. And if any of you ever face what we faced, you won't have to ask for help. We'll already be there. The hall erupted in applause. It lasted for a long time. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Delegates mixed freely, talking and laughing and sharing food and drinks. Una found herself standing next to Vulthan, looking out a window at the stars. You know, the old counselor said, in 900 years I have seen many things. But I've never seen the galaxy come together like this. Usually, when one species falls, the others fight over the pieces. Maybe things are changing, Una said. Maybe. Belfin's tendrils glowed soft pink, the meridian color of hope. Or maybe it was just you. Humanity has always been special. You're small and weak and short-lived, but you never seem to notice. You face impossible challenges and somehow win. You make friends with enemies and turn strangers into allies. He turned to look at her directly. The galaxy was afraid when you ran. But not because we thought you were dangerous. We were afraid because we realized how much we would lose if you were gone. Una didn't know what to say, so she just nodded and watched the stars. Back on Earth, life was returning to normal. The quarantine zones were gone. The hospitals were emptying. People were going back to work, back to school, back to their lives. In Singapore, Hugh Mu Kang visited the dock where he had opened that fateful cargo container. It was just a normal dock, now workers loading and unloading ships, machines humming with activity. No one would know that the end of the world had started here. His mother and sister stood beside him. They had almost lost him. Now they held him close, grateful for every breath he took. "What will you do now?" his mother asked. Hyunwoo thought about it. He had been a dock worker. It was a simple job, loading boxes and checking manifests. Before all this, he had never thought he was important. "I think I want to study medicine," he said. "I want to help people. I want to make sure this never happens again." His mother smiled and squeezed his hand. In orbit, Commander Taiho Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and prepared to return to his patrol route. The emergency was over. Normal life was resuming. But things were different now. His first officer, Ji-Wan Lee stood beside him. "Sir," she said, "I have something to say. Speak freely. I'm proud to serve under you. I'm proud to be human. And I'm proud of what we did." Taiho nodded slowly. "So am I, Lieutenant." "So am I." The Indomitable broke orbit and jumped to faster than light speed, heading back out into the galaxy. Behind it, Earth glowed blue and green and beautiful in the darkness of space. Humanity had faced the end and survived. They had learned they were not alone. And the galaxy had learned that when humans ran, it wasn't because they were afraid. It was because they had something worth running toward.